wanting to be a poet. I suppose I wrote so much about wanting to be a poet because for the first few years of doing it, I didn't feel like a writer. I basically started writing poems for my little boy's mother to impress her. Those poems got published and it just went from one opportunity to another. So, in a way, I never planned to get this far.
Symbolisms and images in your poems, and
yes.
The way that when you read all of them in this recent collection, from the first poem that's in there to the very last one, it is like almost an encyclopedia of beasts.
I approach the makeup of my poems, it's like a recipe. Every little bit of element, there's an ingredients factor. So yeah, the symbols are very important. I first and foremost just want to entertain. I want to give my audience all sorts of nice little things to juggle around in their heads so they can get a good picture of where I'm coming from. But simplicity's always been my goal. Yet now and then I will spin into a line and I think, oh my God, for someone who never went to university or never had any formal training in writing, I don't know, it just, yeah, you do. I do get those little magic moments when I think, how did I come out with that? Sometimes 8, sometimes 10, the crooked men with faces like prunes, tattoos and scars, and tongues that could no longer work, but engulfed by obscenities as they leaked night and day in that old laundry shed. And they were not grateful or ungrateful, the crooked men, nor were they in debt to my father and his amazing rack. In these days when their hate would trickle through my backyard haven, drowning the smells of Saturday afternoon and freshly cut grass and the yap of the Labrador, and innocence lost to the crooked men. You can have an adventure just going up to the shop. You can, you really have to open up your mind, open up your eyes a little bit. I've never been a good traveller. I've never planned to travel, and it's funny now I spend probably 50% of my time travelling. The trips I've done to Germany, the trips I've done to New Zealand, they've all sort of come out of this job.
Do you have things that are able to punctuate these moments of overwhelmedness or sadness, for example, when you travel, the sense of longing or missing your home, or literary festivals full of maniacs come to talk to you, you know, molesting the moments of quiet when you could be writing?
I'm a very private person. I only have a small number of friends that I hang out with in Brisbane. The last time I was down at Sydney Writers' Festival, I mostly spent my room in the Intercontinental watching the sumo wrestling every night, and people were ringing me up and saying, well, come down to the harbour, come here for a drink. And I prefer just to do my reading, do the book signing, have a chance to talk to some other writers, and yeah, I don't really want to fall into the trap of being some sort of life of the party kind of thing. I was hanging out with a lot of older kids who introduced me to stuff like the Sex Pistols and the Clash and the Dead Kennedys, and I suppose that started laying down more of the fabric for me to be interested in literature, because growing up in Bajolki Peterson's Queensland, you know, we had the reading we were exposed to was very boring. It didn't relate to the surroundings of where we were growing up. Whereas coming from an Indigenous family, and for a long time my mum and dad were involved in the Labor Party, that really sort of hardcore punk music, I recognised certain words in the very political punk music that I'd heard my parents use, I'd heard their colleagues use.
You've mentioned before people like Nick Cave, for example. Is their character of interest to you as much as their writing at all? And do you see yourself as having a particular role or character to play?
I don't know, as such as character. Being like one of the only Indigenous writers that is constantly on the circuit, I definitely provide that character, but no, it's too much responsibility for me.
It does sound like the end of a phase in terms of the this collection, Smoke Encrypted Whispers. Was that purposeful then, to suddenly tie this entire existence up until now into a book and then close it and begin a new one?
Maybe, yeah. And also have that fear too that I've heard, you know, we've got some wonderfully established writers in this country, and I've just heard a critic say now or then, I don't want people to get sick of my voice. I don't want to get to a phase where I hear someone sick of my voice. So
Well, I guess you get sick of your own too.
I do. So maybe winning these 2 awards and finishing off the novel later in the year. I also have to go to Norway in July because Itinerant Blues is coming out in Norwegian. So maybe by Christmas time I'm fed up and I've finished what I've had to finish. It's a nice way to just go out, start something else.
Redwood.